The narrative begins with rumors swirling across the internet about an entity known as Tsukimamono. According to the comments, it is a ghostly entity that manifests immediately if summoned via a tweet containing its name, with the most malevolent cases reportedly requiring an exorcist. 17-year-old Hiragi seems mostly indifferent to these urban legends as he wraps up his part-time job. After a coworker dismisses him for a break, Hiragi changes out of his uniform and opens Twitter. He has been actively posting about the phenomenon, coordinating a meeting at the South End convenience store for 6 p.m., despite a barrage of replies mocking the tweets as cringe or clickbait. Ignoring the skepticism, he heads into the staff-only supply room, where he is startled to find a woman already waiting for him. Apologizing for the delay, the stranger confirms that he is her client. Before Hiragi can fully process her presence, she invades his personal space, examining the scratches on his neck. She introduces herself as Tsutsuji, a filler. The bizarre title and her intensity unsettle him, causing her to back off and wonder if she has approached the wrong person. Hiragi quickly corrects the misunderstanding, showing her his tweet to prove his identity. She drags a chair uncomfortably close to him, asking to hear the details. Hiragi notices that the woman is undeniably pretty, but she doesn't seem to respect personal space and gives off a slightly intimidating vibe. When he nervously admits he can't pay much, she waves it off, saying she'll accept whatever he can give. Curious about her methods, he asks if she is an exorcist. Tsutsuji corrects him, explaining that she does not perform exorcisms. She describes Tsukimamono as creatures born from cracks in the human heart, beings that seek to enter the human world to fill their own internal voids. Her job is to fill these gaps, a profession she dryly jokes is often mistaken for renovation work. Leaving the choice to believe her entirely up to him, she signals for him to explain his situation. Hiragi begins recounting the events of 3 days ago during his night shift. He describes sensing an invisible force sprinting toward him while he was organizing shelves. Although he avoided being physically hit, Hiragi was horrified by the vision of a face sprouting endless smaller faces from its eyes and mouth, along with a terrible smell. Even so, he kept working so he wouldn't disturb the other customers. Tsutsuji smiles and calls him a good guy. Hiragi admits that he nervously ran the cash register while hoping the monster was just a hallucination, but it was really standing there. Tsutsuji laughs at the idea that he focused on his work despite being so scared. Hiragi is confused that she finds it funny, but she just chuckles and takes his hand, placing it on the key necklace she wears. She asks him to feel its weight. When he says it feels light, she nods, saying he passed her test and agrees to help him, praising his genuinely good nature. She hands him the key necklace, warning that the Tsukimamono will likely return tonight. Before he can ask for specific instructions on how to use the item, a customer arrives, forcing him back into his cashier persona. Tsutsuji lingers in the store, observing him with interest. She notes that he is surprisingly friendly with regulars and finds him to be an unusual case. Despite having stared into the face of a monster, he continues his job with unwavering diligence. Hiragi kindly explains that calling in sick would only burden his manager, who wouldn't be able to take time off himself. This logical but absurdly selfless response sends Tsutsuji into another fit of laughter. He grumbles that the situation isn't a joke, but she gently insists that he really is a good guy. Resuming his duties, he serves the self-proclaimed filler some cup noodles when the atmosphere abruptly shifts. She warns him that it is here before he even senses it. A foul stench permeates the store, and a grotesque, monstrous body manifests before them. While Hiragi trembles in fear, Tsutsuji remains completely unmoved. The creature reaches out, placing a packet of flower seeds and a silver ring on the counter. Realizing the spirit intends to pay for the seeds with the ring, Hiragi goes into autopilot despite his shock. He apologetically informs the monster that the store cannot accept jewelry as payment, limiting transactions to cash, card, or digital options. The ghost seems to offer a silent apology for the inconvenience. Thinking on his feet, Hiragi mentions a store promotion giving away free flower seeds to visiting customers. He extends the packet to the entity, which gratefully accepts the gift and vanishes. Witnessing this, Tsutsuji bursts into laughter once more. Unbelievable that he not only treated the monster like a valid customer, but even apologized for the payment method. Hiragi defends himself, stating he simply wanted to do right by the customer. Smiling, she points out that the visitor left the ring behind. She inspects the jewelry, noting that faint traces of life still cling to it. Deciding to act immediately, she announces that they must track the Tsukimamono to its dwelling. However, Hiragi refuses to abandon his post, insisting on finishing his shift first. Amused by his stubborn work ethic, she waits while drinking her coffee. Once he finally clocks out and apologizes for the delay, Tsutsuji tells him to hurry and brace himself. When he asks what he needs to prepare for, she looks grimly at the ring, revealing that it carries the heavy scent of death. Tsutsuji explains that a faint scent of decay lingers on the ring. By tracing the aura of the seeds Hiragi previously gave the entity, she can pinpoint the exact location of the Tsukimamono. Following the spectral trail, they arrive outside a quiet apartment. Hearing the distinct cry of a baby from within, she reaches for the doorknob, but the heavy door creaks open on its own before she can even make contact. Despite Hiragi's hesitation and desperate plea for her to wait, she steps inside, and the door slams shut behind them, leaving him terrified in the sudden darkness. Turning around, they discover the spirit from the convenience store clutching a crying infant. Tsutsuji confirms it is indeed the same Tsukimamono, but notes that the baby in its arms is undeniably alive. Acting on pure instinct, Hiragi lunges at the apparition to rescue the child, shouting at the ghost to let go. However, instead of making physical contact, his hand passes straight through the entity. The momentum drags him forward, and he feels himself being sucked into the ghost's body. Plunging through a void, he wonders if he has fallen into the world of the Tsukimamono. He lands in a strange memoryscape, witnessing the tragic history of the woman before she became a monster. He sees a grieving mother holding that same baby, mourning her dead husband while overwhelmed by financial notices. The vision shows her forcing herself to work, leaving her child at daycare, until the stress eventually breaks her. Snapping out of the trance, Hiragi feels a presence looming behind him. He turns to see the ghost transforming, with countless small crying faces erupting from its eyes, nose, and mouth. The entity grabs him, wailing about the unfairness of her pain, and tries to force the grotesque miniature faces into his mouth. Just as he is about to be consumed, Tsutsuji violently pulls him back into reality, saving him from the nightmare. Gasping for breath, he thanks her profusely. Judging by his reaction, she surmises that he saw the creature's memories and tells him to leave the rest to her. However, Hiragi hesitates, asking if she intends to simply get rid of the spirit. He struggles to find the words, admitting that he feels an overwhelming sadness coming from the ghost rather than just malice. Hearing this, Tsutsuji decides to proceed with her true method. She opens her shirt slightly, revealing a strange metallic keyhole embedded in her. She tells him to use the item she gave him earlier to fill the gap. Hiragi holds up the key, and she instructs him to insert it to finally unlock the full power of Tsutsuji Tsutsuji. Noticing his hesitation, she presses him, asking if he is having second thoughts about saving the spirit. Hiragi is momentarily overwhelmed by the tragic memories he just witnessed, nearly moving to tears. Politely excusing himself for the delay, he finally steels his resolve and inserts the key into the lock. As he twists the key, energy resembling branches erupts from Tsutsuji, extending outward to connect with the Tsukimamono. The connection strips away the monstrous exterior, reverting the ghost back to her original human form, the grieving mother. Hiragi watches as she weeps silently before fading away completely. Looking down, he finds the baby safe in a carriage holding a flower. Cradling the infant, he realizes that the ghost's terrifying persistence was simply a desperate attempt to ensure her child was found. By the next day, news reports confirm that a 6-month-old baby was discovered safe in an apartment in Chiba Prefecture. Meanwhile, back at the convenience store, Hiragi returns to his daily routine of counting the register, his mind drifting back to the ring and the mother's sacrifice. Tsutsuji relaxes nearby, adding sugar to her coffee as she debriefs him. She explains that the mother worked herself to death, raising the child alone, but her inability to stop worrying created a void that tethered her to the living world. She insists that nobody is inherently evil. As long as people live, these gaps in the heart will continue to spawn monsters. When Hiragi asks why the creature came to the store, she smiles, revealing that Tsukimamono are naturally drawn to good-hearted people, implying he was the beacon all along. Hiragi realizes that despite her intimidating introduction, Tsutsuji is genuinely kind. However, the moment is cut short when he notices her slacking off. He scolds her for using her phone behind the counter, to which she casually apologizes before pivoting to her true purpose, collecting her compensation. Hiragi panics, assuming she demands something he cannot provide. She clarifies that she doesn't want money or material items. She needs his help. Terrified by the sudden request, he bolts toward the back room. Tsutsuji laughs at his reaction, explaining that she requires a partner. She reveals that she cannot use the key on herself. She needs someone who meets specific criteria to unlock her power. She needs a person with genuine love in their heart who never fails to be respectful and courteous. Since Hiragi fits this description perfectly, she formally invites him to join her in hunting the increasing number of Tsukimamono. Flustered but accepting his fate, he agrees to the partnership. However, true to his nature, he asks if he can finish his shift first so his manager can go home. Tsutsuji can only laugh, amazed that he remains such a humble, diligent worker, even in the face of the supernatural. The following day, a mysterious object plummets from the sky, though Hiragi remains completely oblivious to the event. Instead, he focuses on preparing for his first official visit to Tsutsuji's office. Arriving at the gate, he hesitates, unsure if he has the right address until he spots a note inviting visitors to come right in. He enters without knocking, offering a polite greeting, but immediately regrets it. Upon seeing Tsutsuji, he panics and slams the door shut. When she opens it to ask what is wrong, he frantically begs her not to reveal the lock so casually. Amused by his flustered reaction, she changes her clothes, teasing him for being so complicated. Their conversation is interrupted by Hiragi's phone. He answers, apologizing to a friend and canceling their plans for the day. Overhearing this, Tsutsuji feigns surprise that he actually has friends. She mischievously remarks that friends are rare and precious, implying that canceling on them might lead to him being cut off entirely. Her teasing strikes a nerve, sending Hiragi into a spiral of anxiety that he might be the only one who thinks the friendship is real. Just then, a knock at the door saves him from his insecurity. A young girl named Lily enters, asking if this is the filler's office. She immediately zeroes in on Hiragi, calling him a cutie and assuming he runs the business. Flustered, he denies being cute and frantically points to Tsutsuji as the actual person in charge. Undeterred, Lily asks about the nature of their connection. Tsutsuji calmly describes their dynamic as a close relationship. While she strictly means they work closely as partners, the phrasing sends Hiragi into a panic as his mind jumps to far less professional conclusions. Desperate to change the subject, Hiragi serves tea and urges the client to explain her request. Lily reveals that she witnessed someone jump from her apartment building, but the body vanished into thin air before hitting the ground. Worse, no one else seems to have seen the incident, leaving her to wonder if she is cursed or hallucinating. Hiragi glances at his boss, who confirms it is undoubtedly the work of a Tsukimamono. When Lily asks for clarification, Hiragi tries to brush it off, hoping to spare her the terrifying details. Tsutsuji bursts into laughter, explaining to the confused girl that Hiragi is just being a nice guy by trying to protect her. Watching their chemistry, Lily teases them for flirting in front of a customer. Hiragi denies the accusation, while Tsutsuji focuses on the job, announcing that they will head to the scene immediately to investigate. Arriving at the apartment complex, Lily points to the exact spot where she claims the body landed, though Hiragi sees nothing but empty pavement. Tsutsuji decides to split the party, instructing the teenager to investigate the immediate area with their client while she pursues a separate lead. Lily is thrilled by the arrangement, teasing that she gets the cutie all to herself. Hiragi humbly denies the label, watching as his boss departs without a hint of jealousy. Disappointed that the woman didn't react, Lily presses him about the true nature of his relationship with Tsutsuji. He awkwardly searches for a definition, eventually likening himself to a tool used for her work. Finding his self-description overly self-critical, she promises not to let him be so hard on himself, which makes him blush. The pair begins canvassing the neighborhood, but their questions yield no results. The locals are unresponsive. Strangely, Hiragi notices that small children and animals seem instinctively frightened as they pass, though he cannot tell if they are reacting to him or the girl. Exhausted by the lack of information, Lily expresses her frustration. Hiragi buys her a drink from a vending machine and decides to update his boss on their lack of progress. As he pulls out his smartphone to send a message via the Line app, Lily points confusedly toward a nearby public phone booth, asking why he isn't using that to make the call. Her complete ignorance regarding modern messaging apps baffles him. Noting her high-quality clothing, he initially categorizes her as a sheltered rich girl, yet a nagging sense of unease persists. Something about her feels fundamentally out of place. Breaking the silence, Lily self-deprecatingly calls herself an idiot before shifting the topic to his social life. Hiragi explains that he had to cancel plans with a friend to take this job, sharing a photo they just sent him of a dandelion they found. Lily stares at the image, wistfully remarking on how lucky he is to be so cherished by others. When Hiragi worries that he has upset her, she quickly apologizes and admits she feels jealous. She opens up about her painful past, explaining that she often felt invisible to her parents, teachers, and classmates. She also confesses that she ruined her relationship with her only friend. Sometimes, she wonders if anyone would truly care, or take it seriously, if something terrible had happened to her instead. Hearing her dark question, Hiragi gives a quiet but confusing answer. He says that if something terrible ever happened to her, he would take it seriously and would be deeply affected. Realizing his words sounded unclear, Hiragi explains that her death would not be something to talk about casually. It would deeply hurt and sadden him. His honest response surprises Lily. To lighten the heavy mood, she suddenly laughs and teasingly accuses him of having a crush on her. Flustered and embarrassed, Hiragi strongly denies it. Wanting to escape the awkward moment, he quickly changes the subject and points out a bystander they have not questioned yet, pulling Lily along to speak with her. They approach the woman and ask about the suicide. She claims she knows nothing and tries to leave. When Hiragi asks for more information, the woman interrupts him with a strange warning. She tells him not to wander around this area alone and advises him to go home right away. Then she walks off, leaving Hiragi unsettled by her words. Lily gently places her hand on his shoulder and apologizes for how awkward the conversation was. She wonders why the woman refused to look at her. But Hiragi is distracted by something else. Her hand feels ice cold. As Lily worries that she might have said something wrong, Hiragi suddenly realizes something frightening. Every person they have spoken to only looked at him. No one ever acknowledged Lily. Fear fills him as he turns to look at her. She asks why he looks so scared. But as he stares, her appearance begins to change. Her cute features twist into something unnatural, resembling the terrifying face of a Tsukimamono. She grabs his collar. Hiragi shuts his eyes tightly, frozen with fear, yet still desperately thinking about how he can help her. Just as everything reaches a breaking point, Tsutsuji suddenly appears. She pulls Hiragi away from the spirit, casually apologizing for the delay and announcing that the filler has arrived to take care of the situation. Tsutsuji quickly raises her hand and summons branches that wrap around the transforming girl, holding her in place. She then tells Hiragi the truth. Lily is actually Shizaki Lily, a girl who jumped from this building and died 30 years ago. Since then, her spirit has been trapped there, wandering without realizing she was dead. Tsutsuji admits she suspected this from the beginning. She purposely used Hiragi to trigger Lily's memories and force her to face the truth. By doing so, she made the Tsukimamono reveal itself so they could finally deal with it. Hiragi is shocked, realizing she purposefully turned their client into a monster. Tsutsuji defends the plan, stating that fillers are experts in these matters and that leaving a bound spirit to wander is pointless. Before they can argue further, the woman they attempted to interview earlier storms back onto the scene. She shouts at them to stop snooping and to leave the dead in peace. Suddenly, the corrupted spirit breaks free from the branches and lunges at the intruder. Hiragi throws himself in between them to block the attack, taking a slash to the shoulder. The impact knocks both him and the woman off balance, and they plummet into the void, falling directly into the Tsukimamono's consciousness. They land in a surreal, hazy space. The woman immediately notices blood dripping from Hiragi's neck and shoulder, but he dismisses the injury, apologizing for dragging her into this supernatural mess. As they get their footing, a vision materializes before them. Two high school girls chatting excitedly. Hiragi realizes he is looking at Lily's memories. In the vision, a girl nicknamed Nan-chan talks about her dream of running a cake shop, with Lily encouraging her. The woman beside Hiragi shouts at the illusion, recognizing herself as, and the setting, as their second year of high school. The atmosphere of the memory darkens rapidly. A teacher scolds Lily for being the only student who has not turned in a career plan, pressuring her to decide what she wants to do with her future. Then the scene shifts to her home, where her mother yells at her for staying in her room and skipping parent-teacher meetings. The next day, Nan tries to comfort Lily. She tells her that she does not need to rush into a decision and that her cheerful, lovable personality is enough. But the day after that, Nan happily announces that she passed the entrance exam for pastry school. Lily goes silent and stiff with shock. She realizes that her only friend is moving forward in life, while she is still lost and unsure of her own path. Lily stands at the edge of the roof. She convinces herself that no one truly notices her, so disappearing would not change anything. As she steps forward, the adult Nan-chan screams for her to stop and collapses in shock and grief. When Lily's spirit tries to approach her old friend, Nan pulls back. Lily tells her to stay away. She insists that being connected to someone with no future or direction will only cause trouble. She believes nothing good can come from staying near her and tries to jump again. Hiragi grabs her just in time. He reminds her of what he said before, that her death would not mean nothing to him. It would hurt him deeply. Lily begs him to let go so he does not fall with her, but he refuses. He holds on tightly as dark waves rise around them, threatening to pull her under. Overwhelmed, Lily calls herself stupid and says she never knew what to do with her life. Through tears, Nan-chan agrees that she made a terrible choice by trying to end everything. However, she begs Lily to stay with her instead. As Nan's tears fall onto Lily's face, she finally breaks down. She apologizes and shares one last regret. She wishes she could have tasted more of the sweets Nan-chan baked. The vision fades, and they return to reality. Tsutsuji greets them calmly as the ghost begins to disappear. Lily apologizes for the trouble she caused, but says she is grateful she could see Nan one last time. She asks them to fill the empty space she left behind. Hiragi places the key into the lock. With that, the Tsukimamono disappears completely. All that remains is a quiet farewell and the faint scent of cookies in the air. Later, back at the office, Hiragi tries to talk about how they handled the case. Tsutsuji interrupts him. She says choosing him as her partner was the right decision. Although she is an experienced filler, she admits she does not fully understand human emotions. She realizes she needs his empathy to do her job properly and tells him she will rely on him from now on. Embarrassed by her closeness and praise, Hiragi quickly leaves for his part-time job. When he arrives, a co-worker tells him he is not scheduled to work that day. Still, they introduce him to a new employee. The girl introduces herself as Nanami Minami and greets him politely. The moment Hiragi looks into her eyes, he feels something is wrong. He knows immediately, this new girl is not human. The following day, a news broadcast reports on the mysterious disappearance of several men within Ryusui City, noting that police investigations are still ongoing. Watching from the office, Hiragi points out their proximity to the incidents. Tsutsuji dryly remarks that he should be the one worrying, given that the victims are exclusively male. Shifting the subject, he comments on the office's antique CRT television, questioning how such an old device is still functional and if it has been modified. Tsutsuji deflects the technical questions, urging him to stop stalling and head out to meet his friends. Reluctantly leaving the office, Hiragi joins his group at the library to tackle a social studies assignment investigating the traditions of Ryusui City. While one friend flips through a city encyclopedia, their discussion regarding an ancient stone artifact escalates into a heated argument. The noise attracts the attention of a girl nearby, who strictly instructs them to lower their voices. Hiragi immediately recognizes her as Nanami, the new employee from his part-time job. His friends hurriedly pull him deep into the stacks, away from her view. They demand to know how he is acquainted with a student from the prestigious Seisai Academy, amazed by her high status and Instagram follower count. Unbeknownst to them, Nanami is standing just on the other side of the bookshelf, listening to every word. While his friend emphasizes how unlikely it is for someone like them to interact with a high-class girl, Hiragi simply shrugs it off. He explains that to him, she isn't a girl from the academy or a celebrity. She is just Nanami, his co-worker. Hearing him strip away her imposing labels and accept her simply as a person causes Nanami's heart to race with unexpected emotion. Later that evening, Nanami returns to her large estate. A strict maid immediately confronts her, noting that it is past 6 p.m. and the library closed an hour ago. Nanami offers a small lie, claiming she went to a coffee shop with friends afterward. The servant coldly reprimands her. He criticizes her recent part-time job and what he calls her pointless spending. He also reminds her to maintain the self-awareness expected of a member of the Nanami family. Lying in bed that night, she reflects on the contrasting ways she was perceived today, the academy girl by Hiragi's friends and the family member by her maid. She dwells on Hiragi's comment that she is just Nanami, and the thought brings a genuine smile to her face. However, the peaceful moment is broken by a sinister presence. Unknown to her, a hand quietly reaches out from beneath her bed, grasping toward her. In a surreal dreamscape, Nanami fearlessly stares down the ghostly figure, demanding to know its identity. The spirit claims to be a part of her, urging her not to be so cruel. Nanami accuses the entity of causing the strange, fluttering sensations in her body, but the ghost ignores her embarrassment. It explains that, since their lives are connected, the feelings are natural. Nanami refuses to accept this and calls it bad and embarrassing. She then wakes up suddenly. Shaking off the experience as just another strange dream, she does not notice the mysterious tattoo that has appeared on her abdomen. Later at the convenience store, Hiragi greets her and apologizes for the noise his friends made at the library the previous day. Nanami assures him it was fine and asks about his research. When he mentions studying ancient clay figures representing a god of fertility, the specific phrasing flusters her. Their conversation is interrupted when Tsutsuji arrives to buy premium ice cream. She notices the new employee and cryptically tells Hiragi that if anything happens to the girl, he will be the one responsible for saving her. Before Hiragi can ask what she means, a male customer approaches Nanami aggressively and shouts a warning. Hiragi quickly steps in to protect her, calming the situation and apologizing to the customer on her behalf. After their shift ends, Nanami thanks him using his first name, Michiru, and asks if they can stop using formalities and speak like friends. Hiragi agrees, noting that they are the same age. She explains that, because of her family's strict rules, she took the part-time job in secret to learn more about the world. She also admits that, although she usually has trouble talking to men, she finds Hiragi surprisingly easy to talk to. Curiosity getting the better of her, she asks about the beautiful woman from earlier, fearing Tsutsuji might be his girlfriend. Hiragi quickly clarifies that she is merely an acquaintance from another job. Relieved, she listens as he kindly offers to help her with anything she might need. The innocent offer triggers a rush of evil thoughts, which Nanami frantically tries to suppress. However, the ghost within her whispers that there is nothing wrong with wanting to learn all about this boy. Her heart pounding, she loses control to the spirit's influence. She lunges forward, grabbing his hand and reminding him of his promise to help. The scene shifts abruptly, and Hiragi wakes up bewildered to find himself in a room. Standing before him, a possessed Nanami declares her intent to get closer to him to know him better. Bewildered by this, Hiragi turns his back on the girl, apologizing profusely. Nanami refuses to accept his retreat, confessing that she genuinely likes him. Internally, Hiragi is terrified. The situation feels wrong, and he struggles to process why this is happening to him. She struggles under the spirit's influence, trying desperately to get him to notice her. Realizing he is avoiding eye contact, she questions his hesitation. Hiragi gently explains that while he is interested in romance, there is no foundation for these feelings right now, and he cannot accept them without a good reason. Nanami argues that her love should be reason enough, but he cuts her off, firmly telling her that she needs to treasure herself more. His words break the hypnotic state. Nanami snaps back to her senses, confused by her surroundings. Realizing what she just did, she cries out in shock and hides her face, apologizing repeatedly for her reckless behavior. Hiragi quickly reassures her, insisting it isn't her fault and that he was only worried about her well-being. His kindness brings tears to her eyes. Anxious to leave, Hiragi attempts to open the door, but the knob refuses to turn. It isn't locked, it feels sealed shut. Just as panic begins to set in, a hand suddenly punches through the barrier from the outside. Tsutsuji grabs both of them and violently pulls them out of the room. The scenery shifts instantly, and Hiragi realizes they have been dragged back to reality. When Tsutsuji asks where they were, Hiragi vaguely replies that it was a place high school students have no business visiting. Understanding the implication, Tsutsuji reveals that they were trapped inside a hallucination created by Nanami herself. Nanami is horrified, and Hiragi argues that his co-worker is just a normal human. Tsutsuji explains that living people can become Tsukimamono too. When pain and worry create cracks in the heart, those voids can manifest as monsters. Terrified by the diagnosis, Nanami asks what she should do. Hiragi gently encourages her to share her burden. Weeping, Nanami finally unloads the pressure she has been carrying. She describes the brutal expectations placed on her to become the perfect head of the Nanami family, with everyone demanding she remain pure, innocent, and devoid of any personal desires. Hiragi listens intently, then counters her self-doubt. He praises her genuine nature, citing how she took the initiative to quiet his friends at the library. He tells her that he appreciates those small, attentive details about her true self. Moved by his acceptance, she cries out for help. Hiragi draws the key, telling her to leave it to him. Tsutsuji prepares the ritual, and branches of energy erupt from the keyhole, reaching toward the girl. However, the exorcism goes wrong. The ghost, the manifestation of Nanami's hidden desires, surges forward, physically grabbing the spiritual branches and snapping them in half. The entity sneers at them, mocking their attempt to banish her so easily.